Right now, Ondas Holdings Inc., ticker symbol ONDS, is trading at exactly 8.66 USD, down 0.56 cents or approximately 6.12% on the intraday session. If you are watching the ticker tape today, you are seeing a sea of red that might incite panic in the unseasoned investor, but if you look closer at the order flow, you will see something that contradicts the surface-level bearishness. Most retail traders see a 6% drop and assume the thesis is broken. They see a red candle and their instinct is to flee. That is the expectation. The reality is that we are witnessing a classic liquidity flush following a massive 1,000% run-up over the last year. And the volume profile suggests that institutional buyers are not selling, they are absorbing. When you see a stock pull back on lower relative volume after such an explosive move to the upside, you are not looking at a crash. You are looking at a transfer of inventory from weak hands to strong hands. The price action today is testing the conviction of those who bought in during the recent surge, asking them a very difficult question. Do you believe in the long-term value of autonomous drone infrastructure, or were you just here for a quick trade? The narrative surrounding Ondas Holdings has shifted dramatically in the last few months. For a long time, the expectation was that this company was just another speculative small cap trying to find its footing in the crowded drone sector. Investors looked at the cash burn and the long sales cycles and wrote it off as dead money. But the reality has smashed that perception into pieces. We are no longer talking about a company hoping for a proof of concept. We are talking about a company that has secured mission-critical government contracts, deployed systems for major rail networks, and is actively involved in defense logistics that are reshaping how we think about aerial security. The disconnect between the current share price volatility and the fundamental backlog growth creates a tension that is palpable. You have day traders on the Robinhood app flipping shares for pennies, while down in the dark pools, major funds like Hood River Capital and Renaissance Technologies have been accumulating millions of shares. Let's look at the immediate market mechanics driving today's move. The stock opened at 9.11, hit a high of roughly 9.15, and has since drifted lower to this 8.66 level. This creates a psychological barrier. Traders who entered at the recent highs near 11.70 are underwater, and their stop losses are getting triggered. This cascades the price down, however, support is forming. If you look at the technicals without the noise of emotion, you see that the stock is respecting the retracement levels from its last breakout. This is normal behavior for a stock that has appreciated this quickly. It is healthy. If it went up in a straight line every single day, it would be a bubble waiting to burst. This pullback allows the moving averages to catch up to the price, effectively resetting the momentum for the next leg of the cycle. When you consider online investing and the tools available to the modern trader, it is easy to get lost in the noise of social media forums and headlines. You might see people comparing this to Tesla stock in its early days, or trying to draw parallels to Nvidia stock because of the AI components in the drones. While those comparisons grab attention, they are often superficial. Ondas is not trying to be a consumer car company or a chip manufacturer. They are building industrial infrastructure. Think of them more like a utility company that flies. They provide the rails in the sky and the private networks on the ground that allow critical industries to function. This is not about selling a cool gadget to a consumer. It is about selling a system that monitors miles of railroad track automatically, or a drone that can secure a border without human intervention. That is a sticky business model. Once a railroad or a government entity integrates the Optimus system or the Fullmax network, they do not switch it out next week. The switching costs are too high. That creates a moat. The recent earnings report is what really woke the market up. We saw a six-fold increase in revenue year over year. You do not see that kind of growth in mature companies like Apple stock. That is the kind of explosive expansion that forces a repricing of the entire asset. The market realized it had priced Ondas as a failing startup, when in reality it was transitioning into a growth compounder. The backlog of over $22 million is not just a number on a spreadsheet. It represents committed orders that will flow into revenue in the coming quarters. This gives us visibility. One of the hardest things in self-investing or managing an individual brokerage account is finding companies with predictable future cash flows. Ondas is starting to offer that visibility, and that is why the institutional ownership has spiked. We need to talk about the two main engines driving this machine, because most people only know about the drones. Yes, Ondas Autonomous Systems is the sexy part of the business. The Optimus system, which is a drone-in-a-box solution, is fully automated. It can take off, do a mission, land, and swap its own battery and sensors without a human ever touching it. That is critical for scalability. If you need a pilot for every drone, the economics do not work. If one operator can manage 10 or 20 drones remotely, suddenly the economics are fantastic. That is what Ondas delivers. But the other side of the business, Ondas Networks, is equally important. This is the wireless data division. They have developed a proprietary software-defined radio technology that is becoming the standard for the railroad industry. The Association of American Railroads selected their .16 protocol for the next generation of train communications. That is a massive validation. It means Ondas is embedded in the nervous system of the national transportation grid. The stock is down 6% today, and you might be wondering if you should be worried. If you are using Schwab Intelligent Portfolios or relying on a SoFi robo-advisor, you probably won't even notice this level of granularity. But if you are an active investor, you need to ask yourself what changed today. Did the government cancel the border protection contract? No. Did the rail industry decide to go back to using flags and whistles? No. The fundamentals are unchanged. The price is simply fluctuating based on supply and demand dynamics in the short term. This brings up an interesting point about investment help and where you get your information. If you rely on headlines that scream Ondas crashes, you are reacting to history. You need to be looking at the future. There is a geopolitical angle here that we cannot ignore. The conflict in Ukraine and the rising tensions globally have proven one thing beyond a shadow of a doubt. Drones are not toys. They are essential tools for defense and surveillance. Ondas has exposure here. Their acquisition of Aerobotics and the subsequent development of the Iron Drone Raider gives them a counter-UAS capability. This is a system designed to intercept and neutralize hostile drones. As governments around the world realize they need to protect their airports, stadiums, and power plants from drone threats, the demand for these systems is likely to skyrocket. We are already seeing orders coming in from European airports. This is a tangible validation of the technology. It is not theoretical. Let's pause for a second. Comment below how many shares of Ondas you currently hold and what your average price is. Are you holding through this volatility, or are you looking to add more on this dip? It is always interesting to see where the community stands on days like this. Now, looking at the volume again, over 33 million shares have traded hands today. The average volume is significantly lower than that. High volume on a down day can be a sign of capitulation, where the last of the weak bulls are throwing in the towel. When the last seller has sold, there is only one direction left for the price to go. We are also seeing a divergence in the sector. While some other small-cap tech names are green, Ondas is lagging. This relative weakness can sometimes be a leading indicator of a deeper problem, but in this case, it looks more like a rotation. Funds that made massive profits on the run-up from under $1 to over $11 are taking some chips off the table. That is prudent risk management. It doesn't mean they hate the stock. It means they are rebalancing. If you are using Interactive Brokers or a similar advanced trading platform, you might want to look at the options chain. The implied volatility is high, which means the market expects continued turbulence. This is not a stock for the faint of heart. It is a stock for those who have done their homework. The risk is real. If the government delays a contract, or if the FAA changes regulations regarding beyond visual line of sight flights, Ondas could suffer. They are still burning cash, although the revenue surge is helping to narrow that gap. You cannot ignore the balance sheet. They have raised capital recently, which dilutes shareholders, but it also gives them the runway they need to execute. Dilution is the enemy of the shareholder in the short term, but if that capital is used to capture a market that generates 10 times the return, it is a necessary evil. The comparison to Fidelity Investments or Vanguard funds is interesting because even those conservative giants are starting to take notice. We saw data indicating Vanguard increased their position significantly. When the passive index funds start buying, it creates a floor for the stock price. They are not trading based on the daily news. They are buying because the company has crossed a threshold of legitimacy. Ondas has graduated from being a penny